Hello everyone, and welcome to the meetup about .NET 7 release. It's November, and that means it's time. It was a good time for Microsoft to release the next version of .NET. So this became a tradition for them to arrange a .NET Conf. This is like a purely online conference. It's all about .NET. And I think it happened already several years in a row when they released the next version of .NET on this .NET Conf event. So actually, it was all about .NET 7 release, but also on this conference, there were some community talks and really a lot of interesting materials were shared there. So I really recommend you to go to .NET Conf website, seek for any interesting topic, and just watch the video on the YouTube. But today we will mostly concentrate on .NET 7 stuff, and we will talk about the following. So first of all, we will talk about what's new was released in .NET 7 SDK and the runtime. Of course, we will talk about C# 11 language, and then we will concentrate on like most interesting, most commonly used products from the Microsoft .NET family, which is ASP.NET Core 7 and NC Framework 7. So also at the end, I'll share some brief information about other products that were also released, upgraded, but we will do this very briefly. And in general, yeah, guys, you know, there was such a huge amount of information shared on this .NET Conf, so it was really hard to aggregate everything in a short presentation, in a short meetup. But anyway, we tried to do that. Tried to pick up the most interesting things and share with you, so you will be able just to spend minimum amount of time, but get the most interesting information, the most valuable pieces of information, and probably use this on your future and current projects. Right, so let's make a start. And let's talk about .NET 7 runtime and SDK in general. So actually, the very first session of this .NET Conf was conducted by the Microsoft team. And of course, there was some kind of marketing in the beginning, because Microsoft need to do some marketing to make .NET ecosystem more popular. And during this marketing slides, during this marketing speech, Microsoft actually shared some highlights about what was changed in .NET 7, what functionality are we going to get. So actually, Microsoft concentrated on the following. So .NET 7 was focused on the following. On the unification, first of all. So Microsoft again said that .NET 7 consists of one BCL. It has some unifications for different platforms, like Linux or ARM processor. Of course, it will come up with a new target framework moniker. Also, .NET 7 focus was to make it a modern platform. From the Microsoft perspective, that means like the performance improvements, additional productivity enhancements like container-first workflows. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And also for Microsoft, modern means to provide an ability to build a cross-platform applications for mobile, for desktop. Again, this sounds like something that we've already had for many years, but again, this is not my slide, this is not my focus. Simplicity. So simplicity means making C# language more easier to learn, to use. For me, this doesn't sound very correct, because from each version, C# language becomes more and more complicated. Okay, anyway, we will have a look at C# 11 very soon. Also, .NET is positioned as a platform for building a cloud-native applications. Again, this sounds like something that was already that they told us several years ago. And the last focus, performance. Yeah, again, performance. So two times performance. Why is it so? Yeah, because, you know, guys, it was a really deep focus on the performance for this release. I'm going to share what, like, just briefly what Microsoft did, but there is a huge article that you can read and go to the details. What kind of performance did they do in this .NET 7 release? So another marketing slide from Microsoft was looking like that. So again, .NET is a platform that you can use for build different flavors of the applications. You can build desktop applications, web applications, of course, mobile, games, IoT, artificial intelligence. Yes, again, we heard that several times. So, and based on both these marketing slides, you probably may understand that there was no big surprises, and this .NET 7 release is not like a game changer. It's just an evolution of the platform. But is it bad? No, I think it's not bad. I think it's a good evolution. It's a good step forward for the platform and for all of us. So the platform became more performant. So it provides like high quality capabilities. That's good. That's definitely good. Let's celebrate that. And let's have a look at all these features step one by one. So let's start from the performance improvements. Just before the release, Microsoft actually published a very huge, it was like huge, abnormally huge article about the performance improvements. And in the very beginning of this article, there were these words. .NET 7 is super fast. It's like the fastest .NET ever released. That sounds like it's not a Microsoft speech. It's Apple speech about the new iPhone. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this .NET is the 7 is the fastest .NET. Okay, let's do some dive. What was really improved in .NET? Okay, here is just a list of different performance improvements happened in .NET platform. So as you can see, they touched like different areas. They touched JIT compilation, garbage collection. They introduced a native IoT compilation. We will talk about that very soon. They also optimized different libraries, different algorithms like collections, link, like cryptography. So a lot of areas were touched. That's why this article is so huge. And here, just for an example, I provided some measurements from the improvements that they made to several link methods. You probably use these methods, min and max methods. And as you can see, here is a benchmark for two cases where the length of the collection is 4 elements, and for the length of the element is 1024. Yeah, and the difference is huge. So for the small collections, there are some approximately like 6 times performance improvements. There is a 6 times performance improvements, but for large collections, it's 33 times or even more improvements. Really impressive work made by Microsoft for the link area at least. So of course, because Microsoft improved a lot of different areas, at the end, our like frameworks that we are using for building the applications became more performant. And you can have a look at the tech-empowered benchmarks, the latest round, 21 round results, and you will find that ASP.NET Core framework is on top of this leaderboard. So in fact, again, it was like a kind of marketing, but Microsoft said that ASP.NET Core is 11 times faster than Node.js, which is like really impressive performance. And here, if you have a look at this table, you will find that ASP.NET Core is like the only framework that is widely used by developers for building the applications, because first 2 frameworks, I think they are just created only for being here, being in this list of the frameworks competing for the first place. So really good achievement by Microsoft team, by .NET team. Here is another example, gRPC. Yeah, I know some of you may start adopting gRPC, some may not, but this is something that probably we should adopt, because this is really nice technology. So what happened in gRPC? So because of all these different improvements, gRPC implementation, .NET gRPC implementation is even faster than gRPC gRPC implemented on such languages as Go, C++, or Rust. And this is really amazing, because these languages, Go, C++, Rust, they are compiled to native code. But in .NET we have like intermediate language, we have JIT, garbage collection system, and all this like complicated runtime overhead. But we're still faster than these native implementations. This is really amazing, really impressive. Good job by Microsoft here as well. What else? What other areas were touched? Also, Microsoft decided to concentrate on supporting ARM64 platform, and they made a lot of improvements. For example, why actually ARM64 was not as good in performance? Well, because they realized that ARM devices are not so similar as like Intel 64 devices. For example, they realized that on some devices it's even not possible to get appropriate numbers for caching or so. So they focused really on making .NET very good, behaving very good on ARM64 improvements. And as you can see on Tech and Power benchmarks, ASP.NET Core started behaving more performant than x64, regular x64 architecture. So this is again very cool. And it's not only cool because, for example, MacBooks are on ARM processors nowadays, or latest Surfaces as well. Also, like our cloud providers started actively adopting ARM64 for their purposes as well, and they are advertising to use ARM64 processors for their clients. For example, AWS has Graviton processors, and they released some time ago this article that .NET 5 for .NET 5, even for .NET 5, for the same price you can have more performant VMs that will help you to have like more performant applications. So you can go and take a look at this article. So it's not only about consumer devices, it's also about server devices as well, and server hosting as well. So very important topic as well. Okay, so IoT compilation. This is also somehow related to the performance, but it's mostly related to the application startup. So starting from .NET 7, you can use IoT compilation, which means ahead of time compilation, to come up to a single executable file without any external dependencies on runtimes or so. So everything will be compiled in a native code. Yeah, and that means for you will have a really super fast startup time. So back in the days when we used to do a lot of like desktop applications, that feature would be very, very cool, but we didn't have like a feature like that. Well, Mono had, but like .NET Framework didn't have. So nowadays we can have like fully IoT compiled applications. Of course, there are some drawbacks of that. So if you do IoT compilation, you will not be able to use any dynamic loading or reflection emitting functionality. But it's a trade-off. You will have a fast startup time. You will have like self-contained application with some limitations. You can do this really easily. You can just turn on this option in your CS push file, and then when you publish, you just need to specify for which platform are you going to publish your application. So I did a test, and for a basic Hello World application, we have approximately 3 megabytes of executable file, which is a little bit huge, but not critical at all. Of course, if more libraries are added to your application, you will have larger file. It's clear. Okay, what else from the performance perspective again? So Microsoft did a very clever things with the combination of these three features. Well, first feature was released some time ago. It was named as tired compilation. That means .NET runtime, .NET JIT was able to produce several versions of the same code in order to optimize like different scenarios. For example, for a startup time, you probably don't need a very high performant version of your code. It should be just compiled very quickly and be able to run quickly. So that was a tired compilation. So in .NET 7, Microsoft also added on-stack replacement functionality. That means if you have a long-running algorithms, the runtime still is able to switch to more optimal version of your code. For example, the first version may be slow, but quickly compiled. So another option may be very fast, but it was compiled in the background. So on-stack replacement allows the runtime to switch to like more performant version on the go. And another feature, again, it was released in the previous version, but now it's turned on by default. It's dynamic PGO, dynamic profile guided optimization. So this feature allows your .NET runtime to learn by executing your code and optimize the versions of your code, like for example, based on real usage of your application. So the combination of all these three things allows you to have like more performant .NET applications. Okay, so enough with the performance. Let's talk about some different areas of the .NET SDK. So starting from the .NET 7, we can package our applications into containers without having a dependency on the Docker, on the Docker containers runtime or Docker containers toolset. So this became reality because starting from the .NET 7, we have new APIs in our .NET 7 libraries. We have support of tar archive, and because of that, and because Microsoft thinks it's really cool to be able to package your application into the container without any dependencies. So now you can just do this like what you see on the screen. You can add a package Microsoft.NET build containers, and when you publish your application, you can just specify your publish profile with the specification that you would like to publish this into the container. You can also specify like you can tune it, you can specify the base image and so on. Everything is possible. But so starting from the .NET 7, yeah, we can package our applications into the containers. This is really cool, for example, for your CI/CD steps, because you will not have to have any dependencies on the Docker anymore. Okay, another feature which is like not very huge, but it's pretty minor, but still it's nice to have this, is a central package management. So yeah, we had the capability to upgrade all our packages from the Visual Studio, yeah, for the whole solution. But now we can like create a packages props file at the root of our solution and specify that we would like to manage all the package versions centrally, and then we can specify which exact packages we would like to manage centrally. So all the CS-proj files then will have just to specify the name of the package without specifying the version. So after that, you will be able to just upgrade the version in this single file, which will lead you to less changes in your Git repository. So yeah, again, not a big deal, but really nice to have this feature. Okay, and the last here from the SDK perspective, so Microsoft did a lot of improvements in the libraries, in the base class library. They added a lot of different APIs, yeah. And here just a list of the most interesting for us. It's nullable annotations in Microsoft extensions. They also added microseconds and nanoseconds to different date-time classes. They also added system.formats.tar APIs, so you can produce tar archives using your .NET code. So this is what used for the containers, and they also made some improvements in system.text.json package, which replaced some time ago the newtons of JSON by default. So again, like not a big deal, but really nice to have more APIs available out of the box. So from the supporting perspective, .NET 7 is what they call the version of .NET with a standard support. It will be supported for 1.5 years. So it's not an long-term support version. So LTS version will be .NET 8, but you still can upgrade to .NET 7 and start using its capabilities without waiting to .NET 8, because if you are currently, let's say, on .NET 6 and you skip .NET 7, you will have to consume a lot of features from .NET 7 and .NET 8, which will be really, really hard because there are a lot of them, a lot of C# syntax features that we're going to talk very soon, and so on. So if you have a capability to upgrade to .NET 7, I really recommend to do that and play with new tool sets, with new capabilities of the runtime, with new capabilities of the C# 11. So speaking about C# 11, what I really could say, sorry, what I really could say about C# 11 is this: there are so many changes in the language happened during the previous years. So for me, when I started like playing with C# 11, I was really surprised that they brought particular features only now, because I thought this is how .NET, this is how C# is already working. But no, it's only now. And I think Microsoft should stop with bringing new features to C# language for at least a couple of years, because from my personal experience, when I do some technical interviews of people, most of them still only use like C# 5 or C# 6 features, while right now we are at C# 11. So Microsoft should really slow down a little bit here at least, and allow people to adapt to new C# language features. Anyway, so this is what Microsoft released in C# 11. This is the full list of changes. So file scope types. So that means you can, okay, let's do this quickly, then let's do a small demo and play with the language. Okay, file scope types, generic math support, really big feature. Auto default structs, yeah, well, that's good, but not structs are not very commonly used. Pattern match for span of char on constant string. Yeah, so well, it's good that we have. Again, probably not too many people are going to use this. Extended name of scope. Yeah, this is really nice, because yeah, I'll show how what can you do with name of. Numeric int PTR, not very commonly used thing. UTF-8 string literals. Yeah, again, niche thing. Required members. This is a really good feature, and probably will be a game changer. Ref fields and scoped ref. This is more for people who are working on some performance optimizations or on the performance APIs. Raw string literals, really good, cool feature, really like it. Improved methods group conversions to delegate. So probably nobody will notice this change. Warning wave 7. So that means starting from C# 11, if you name a class with a lowercase, then you will get a warning, because Microsoft will tell you that it is likely that somewhere in the future, Microsoft may release a new functionality that will overlap with your class name. Okay, so they are not going to stop. Looks like they are not going to stop. They are going to continue to release new functionality. Generic attributes. Well, okay, so that's good that we have them. new lines in string interpolation expressions, good, and list patterns. So they are going to improve pattern matching, and pattern matching, this is something that I really like to have. All right, so let's do a quick demo of the new capabilities of C# language. Okay, I'm gonna switch to the Visual Studio, and let's try just several new things. Let's start from my favorite probably thing is required members. So before C#11, what we were able to do, we are able to declare a class, let's say class person, and this class, let's say, have a couple of fields, public, string, let it be first name, and let it be get and init. So init is a keyword that was introduced, I think, in C#10 or 9, don't remember. Okay, last name, and let it be public int. Let it be age. Okay. Let's do the following. Let's say that we should have a first name, but last name is like optional. So and in case if we create a new instance of the class person, say we can type more p new person, and yeah, please take a look that we have this first name that is non-nullable string, and seems like we should initialize it. Yeah, but we didn't do that because C#10 syntax allowed us to do that. So we declared first name as non-nullable string, and we created a person object, and we didn't initialize the first name. So yeah, we can create a constructor, assign a default value, or assign like an empty string here. But what if I wanted to enforce the consumer of the class to assign a first name? So yeah, we can declare a constructor, but starting from C#11, what else we can do? We can mark this property as required. And so what is happening? So now if I try to compile, so for some reasons Visual Studio doesn't work very well. Well, so let me try to. Okay, so yeah, here we have an error message. 1 second. So we can see here an error message that we have a required member, which is first name, and we must set its value. So, and now if I look at the IntelliSense, it hints me that first name is required. Okay, let's initialize it. Okay, let's be fine. So this is really cool. So we have more annotations that this particular property should be initialized during the object creation. And I think this syntax competes a little bit with the constructors, but by having this required modifier, we don't have to create a constructor. We can just express the necessity to assign this property just by putting required for the particular property. So I think this is really cool. But yeah, seems like it is a competitor of the constructors. What else? Let's play a little bit with generic math. Okay, so imagine we would like to create a generic method. We are working on a kind of algorithm, and we need some generic math. For example, we would like to create a function or to sum up like two numbers or two generic values. Okay, let's declare some methods, and let's have two params here, ql1 and val2, and okay, let's return just val1 plus val2. Unfortunately, it doesn't work because the compiler can't recognize that this values val1 and value2 they can't be even summed up. So for example, in previous C# languages, we had to do some things like using expressions was an option, or we can declare just dynamic temp variables, well, 1b, and assign well, value 1 to this temporary variable, and then we can do this dynamic thing, which really looks nastier, right? So what we can do starting from C#11, so we can add a generic constraint. We can tell the compiler that t is I number of t, and after that we can do the following. We can just type value 1 plus value 2, and everything just works because a number is a new interface that has like a lot of base interfaces, but actually if we have a look at its implementation, we will notice that this interface has static members, and some of them even static virtual members. This is something that we were not able to do previously, so now we can declare static and static virtual members in our interfaces and even implement the default behaviors for them. And what else is important here, if we go to some hierarchy and navigate to addition operation, we will see that this interface also implements addition operators, and here we have a static abstract result operator plus. So we have a declaration of this plus operator, and because of that, and because Microsoft actually did this for us, so because of all these implementations, because of all this interfaces hierarchy, the compiler now can understand that because t is a number of t, we can sum up this val1 and val2, and everything just works. Yeah, this is like all the static abstract things are really complicated. It breaks my mind at least, but yeah, this is how the C# looks nowadays. So it would be really hard to teach newcomers with all these new features of the language, but yeah, this is how Microsoft solved the problem with generic mods. Right, so what else I would like to demonstrate here? Let's say we want to sum up not just the two numbers. Yeah, actually, I forgot to mention. So by default, Microsoft implemented this iNumber interface for all the base types like integer, float, double, and so on. And you can also have your own iNumber implementations for, I don't know, complex numbers, for example, or any other special numbers that you would like to have in your mass library. Okay, let's say we wanted to have some all function that will not just sum up just two numbers, but will sum up just an array of values. So, sorry, I need to warm up my hands. What we can do, again, starting from C#11, we can use a new way of pattern matching. We can do a array pattern matching or collection pattern matching. I can type value switch, and what I can do, for example, the following pattern. For example, if I have an empty array, I can just return zero. Okay, so how can I do that? T 0 value. Okay, so if I have an empty array, then just return 0. Okay, if I have an array consists of just only one value, I can just return this value without any additional calculations. Okay, So I can do the same for example, for values. And I can return well1 plus well2. And okay, that is cool, but we still have like the situation when we have lots of numbers in our array. So what can we do? We can do the following. We can have let's say the first value, and then we can do 2 dots and type rest. And so we will have the first value in our well variable, and we will have all the rest values assigned to the rest variable. So we can do, for example, like that. Well plus, and do some recursion from all rest. And yeah, it seems like we don't need this line, and we even don't need this line. Okay, so this is how sequence pattern matching is working in C#11. Really cool. Okay, and the last thing is also very useful. We can, so I think we all at some point had previously the situation when we need like to have like large string literals. So we can put this into resources, or we can assign a constant. We can yeah, we had the capability to do that, but that wasn't very fancy thing to implement, to declare. So what we can do nowadays, we can declare, let's say, const string literal, and we can type three, like the sample, forgot its name in English, but okay, we can 3 double quotes, yeah, 3 double quotes, and this is the beginning of multi-string literal, and we can finish with 3 double quotes. And here we can type like our multi-line literals. We can type hello on one line, world on another, like some other symbols. And yeah, if you see, the Visual Studio hints me that these white spaces in the beginning, they will be trimmed, and I'll not have them in my literal declared, which is really cool. And let's say, what if I have like some double quotes in my in the middle of my literal? I can actually add 4 quotes, and by doing this, compiler will be able to recognize that 4 quotes is the beginning and 4 quotes is the ending of the literal. Yeah, what I can show here as well, also very nice thing is that Visual Studio tries to guess the type of your string literal. For example, if you declare some JSON, let's say name, yeah, please have a look. It started highlighting me this JSON syntax when it's declared in a constant literal, which is really nice, really cool feature. And the same behavior probably would be for XML or other things. And I believe that Microsoft is going to add some kind of additional annotations that will tell the IDE how to treat this literals, and do some syntax highlighting for you. Okay, so what else probably I would like to show? Yeah, just very quickly, I have some samples here. I promised to show some name of functionality. Yeah, so name of scope is extended, and now, for example, if you have an attribute, you can use a name of to do the name of to get the name of your input parameter, which is, well, maybe very useful for some guard methods, for example, for arguments checking or so. Yeah, well, actually I have other samples here, but yeah, so most of them are minor, and I hope you got some flavor of C#11. You know, a lot of functionality of the language, a lot of new capabilities. So it's really we really need, as developers, we really need some time to adapt to all this language improvements, language capabilities. Okay, that was C#11. Let's go back to the presentation and let's talk about ASP.NET Core. So ASP.NET Core 7 was released together with .NET 7. So that's what Microsoft does usually. They release new version of their large products like ASP.NET Core or Entity Framework simultaneously with the .NET release. So in general, what was it about? So ASP.NET Core release, ASP.NET Core 7 release was mostly concentrated on the improvements that they were made to the minimal APIs. So minimal APIs, this is what they introduced in ASP.NET Core 6. And this is the way how you can like very easily create very small microservices that consist of just like 20 lines of code. It was like, again, a competition with, I think, with such platforms as Node.js. But there was a huge gap between like usual MVC way, how we developed ASP.NET Core, and what they brought by default in minimal APIs. And they tried to cover these gaps. They tried to make minimal APIs. They tried to bring the same functionality to minimal APIs to replace ASP.NET Core, to be able to replace ASP.NET Core MVC pattern. There were also some improvements in gRPC and Blazor, which we will talk very soon about. But yeah, let's start from the minimal API improvements and let's see what we have here. So first of all, Microsoft added filters for minimal APIs. Before ASP.NET Core 7, it wasn't possible to have filters for your minimal APIs, but now you can just use added endpoint filter and implement some additional functionality that will be executed before and after calling your code. So you can also implement iEndpoint filter interface and do, for example, some logic like login or whatever you want. And then you can reuse this filter logic for different endpoints. For example, like you see here, you can apply this added endpoint filter to your map put endpoint or map post endpoint and reuse the logic, which is like very cool, but it's really strange that we were not able to do that from the beginning of the release of the minimal APIs. Another big improvement of minimal API, and again, it was a huge gap from the beginning, is ability to create a group of APIs. So, for example, in ASP.NET Core MVC, we were able to declare a controller, and then inside our controller, we were able to declare several actions, and we were able to apply some annotations, some filters, like authorization filter or routing-based path to the controller, and all the actions of this controller will automatically have the logic that we declared on the controller level. But for minimal APIs, it was a gap, so you had to do a lot of repetitive code. So starting from the ASP.NET Core 7, you are able to declare a group and add some like common functionality to the different endpoints. For example, you can create a map group, you can add some authorization, you can specify obviously a base part for this group, and then you can apply like several endpoints. You can add several endpoints to the same group, like it is here. For example, you declared a group, then added to the group some common functionality, and then you enrich this group with different endpoints. Okay, so that was minimal APIs improvement. So I think they mostly covered all the gaps of the minimal APIs, and you can use them for your applications, but to be honest, I still prefer MVC-like style, because even on the examples that Microsoft showed on this during the .NET Conf, these minimal APIs looked a bit ugly and unreadable. It was really hard to read and to follow their samples that Microsoft provided, which is something that shouldn't be in the production code. So, okay, it's a bit opinionated functionality, but again, the goal was to compete with Node.js platform. Okay, so gRPC. So this feature is my favorite. So I really liked what I saw on the demo. So this is gRPC transcoding. What is that? So gRPC JSON transcoding allows you to expose your gRPC services like they are just usual REST services. So you can just implement your gRPC. You can add the JSON transcoding using a NuGet package. And what I was really surprised that they even introduced a Swagger generation for your gRPC web services. So you can add again special Microsoft ASP.NET Core gRPC Swagger NuGet package, and then you can write in your gRPC proto contract, you can like map each your gRPC request to a particular get or post or any other method. You can specify like the path of this method, and then you will be able even to see your Swagger page and interact with your services, gRPC services, using a usual REST way. So this is a really cool feature if you have some consumers of your API that for some reasons are not able to use your gRPC way, and they need to interact through the REST endpoint. So now you can have like only gRPC services, add gRPC JSON transcoding, and allow these consumers to use REST or gRPC. This is really cool. I really like this, and I really encourage you to try gRPC services on your project. And if you need, you can add JSON transcoding as well. Also, another improvement in gRPC world is a health check. So this is like a standard way of doing a health checks in gRPC world. No surprises here. So you have appropriate packages. You can do the health check on the server side, and you can do the health check on the client side. Again, with adding appropriate NuGet packages. Another improvements happened in the ASP.NET Core related to Blazor. So first of all, they worked a lot on making Blazor experience close to like React or Angular. So that's why Microsoft worked a lot on hot reloading functionality. For me personally, this almost never worked as I expected or desired it to have. Again, a lot of improvements in the hot reloading, but I don't believe this will work as I would like it to have to be. What else in Blazor? Also, quite useful things happen in data binding and just general in binding world. Now you can have bind after modifier to specify a callback that you would like to call each time after binding had happened. For example, like you have a search box, and each time when a user typed something in the search box, you would like to make an API query. So this is how you can do this right now. Another functionality in a binding world is now you can have bind get and bind set to have like to separate your getter and setter for your Blazor input, for example. And another pretty important thing happened in Blazor world. Microsoft is going to release a new component which is called a quick create. This was a pretty sensitive gap because each time when you need to create an application, it is quite likely that you will need a kind of grid And by default, Blazor didn't offer anything. There were some, and there are some community packages with really cool grids, but there was nothing introduced by Microsoft. So now we have Quick Grid, which has like basic functionality. Well, and this, well, even this basic functionality is really impressive. It would allow you to have a really high quality grid experience in your Blazor application, which is really important, because my personal feeling is that Blazor is should be mostly nowadays mostly focused on kind of internal applications where you need all these tables, all these grids. Really nice to have this quick grid component. And last bits in ASP.NET Core world, just mostly minor. So right now you don't need to specify from services attribute each time when you need something to be injected to your controller or minimal API from services from your DI. So by default, ASP.NET Core will try to find appropriate service for you, even if you don't specify from services attribute, which will make your code a little bit prettier. Yeah, you can disable this behavior actually, but by default it will be turned on. And HTTP 3 support. So HTTP 3 is fully supported by ASP.NET Core. That means we can start building some APIs, some functionality on top of it. So I'm not going to dive into HTTP 3, but I just wanted to say that some time ago I checked YouTube website and realized that YouTube currently worked on HTTP 3, and I didn't know that, but it's already working. So we can adapt HTTP 3. For some reasons, even HTTP 2 is not very widely supported, not very widely used, but HTTP 3 is ready for consuming, so we can try to adapt this. And yeah, HTTP 2 performance improvements, like this is also a nice thing. I've already talked about that. And as a result of HTTP 2 improvements, gRPT performance was boosted really significantly. Right, it was ASP.NET Core. The last large section is Entity Framework. The situation with Entity Framework is slightly different comparing to ASP.NET Core, where they tried to cover some gaps in minimal APIs. So in Entity Framework, Microsoft really concentrated on bringing like rich functionality to the ASP.NET Core that was desired by the community for a long time. I'm really excited about this Entity Framework release. I think it will close vast majority of the scenarios of this nice and beautiful ORM. So let's have a look at what's brought to the Entity Framework. The first large piece of functionality is related to supporting JSON columns. You may know that some relational databases like Microsoft SQL Server or Postgre, these databases have JSON ability to have a JSON columns, and this is like this allows you to have like a hybrid way of your data. You may have some data in a relational way, but you also can have some data in a NoSQL style storage. For example, when you have like fields with unpredictable amount of pieces of data with unpredictable amount of fields, for example, like address or so. So it would be really nice to store such data in a NoSQL way, and this databases allows you to do that. But Entity Framework didn't work very well with these fields. It just treated these fields as strings and worked with these fields with strings. And starting from the EF7, you can play with these JSON fields in a like almost native way. You can do a lot of things. For example, you can map. Let's say you have author and you have contract details field, and these contract details, as you can see, have address, phone. Address has some additional properties, and what you can do, you can map this contract field to JSON. And as a result, you will have the database structure like you can see here on your screens. So you have ID, name, and you have a contract field with a large JSON values. And okay, so that's cool. But how to play with these fields and what Entity Framework can do? Well, actually, it can do almost everything. For example, you can use these fields to make your queries. And if you have a look at this link, you will see that Entity Framework understands that this is a JSON column, and it will use JSON query and JSON value functions of Microsoft SQL Server. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell that by default, Microsoft just implemented this for Microsoft SQL Server. So I know that Postgre also provider may also have this functionality, but Microsoft is obviously concentrated on their own database. So at least this is a good pattern for other database providers for Entity Framework, that they can implement this JSON support. Okay, so in the Microsoft SQL world, this interaction with JSON fields could be implemented using JSON query and JSON value functions. And it supports like really complicated queries, and your link will not be broken by the fact that this is a JSON field. Also, everything is fine with the update of this field. For example, if you assign a completely new value to the contract field and save the changes, it will just replace the whole object in the contract field. But if you do a partial upgrade, for example, you just upgrade an address, then Entity Framework is clever enough to call JSON modify function and just replace a part of your JSON value, which is really cool. Another very nice, very desired piece of functionality is bulk operations. So it was quite clear that for some operations we need bulk, and I know that there are some community projects for Entity Framework that allowed you to do that bulk operations, let's say bulk updates or bulk deletes. But now we have this functionality out of the box. For example, let's start from the bulk delete operation. Let's say you would like to clean up a particular table. You can then type something like context.tags. This is the name of the this is your DB set, and then you can call execute delete async, and this would produce the SQL query which will be delete from like the table, all the records from the table. Of course, cleaning up the table is probably not a very widely used operation, so probably you are interested in making some deletion by conditions, and this is possible. You can write a query. Let's say you would like to delete all the text that contains .NET, and this is also possible. You can write your query and then call at the end execute delete async, and as you can see, you will have a SQL query with a like operation that and delete from, yeah, with like operation, and it will clean up all the data with a .NET Word in the middle. And you can do like really complicated filters here to execute your bulk deletions. This is really cool. Yeah, so another example of like complicated things, complicated scenarios. So even if you have some joins inside, everything will work. Updates. You can also have bulk updates. In order to have like bulk update for a particular field. Yeah, well, in Entity Framework 6, you have to load all the data, all your entities, upgrade each field, and then store to the database, which was really time-consuming and not performant operation. So now you can, let's say, do the following: you have blocks, you type context.blocks, and then you call execute update async, and then you can specify which properties you would like to update. Let's say you would like to update the name property, you can call that property function for your entity and upgrade your properties actually. And as you can see, this is nicely translated into update syntax for your table. And again, you can have like really complicated updates here, and Entity Framework 7 will try to produce a really good, nicely looking SQL query for updating your entities in a bulk way. Okay, that's another example with update. What else? Yeah, this like major functionalities. There were some minor improvements as well. For example, Microsoft improved save changes operation by omitting unnecessary transactions. Previously, they always had these transactions. Also, they improved inserting operations before Entity Framework Core 7. They used temp tables to return the IDs of newly inserted records, but now they just use output functionality. And also, this is really nice, especially if you have a legacy database. It's quite possible that all the inserts and updates and deletes are happening through the stored procedures. And now, starting from the Entity Framework 7, you can map your insert, update, and delete operation to stored procedures. And instead of like generating of regular inserts and updates, Entity Framework will just call your stored procedures from your database to make CRUD operations, which is really cool, especially if you have a legacy database. And also it supports generation of this. If you have a code first approach, it supports generation of your stored procedures. A lot of attention was paid to improvements related to query translations. For example, group by translation was improved, and group join was improved. Sorry. Okay. Some operations with strings like joins now, join and concat now are translated in appropriate way. Again, this is for Microsoft SQL Server. For Postgre, I don't know, maybe that was already translated, but now it works for Microsoft SQL Server. Index of also nowadays can be translated. And also some special SQL Server functions can also be used from the Entity Framework Core 7. Right, we're almost ended. Just the last few slides. Apart from the upgrades to Microsoft top-level products like ASP.NET Core or Entity Framework, there were some upgrades to other frameworks. Also, well, not also, but especially Microsoft concentrated on MAUI framework. So MAUI was upgraded in .NET 7. But in fact, Denis is on the call. I talked to Denis. So Denis is a specialist in Xamarin, and he told that actually this release of MAUI in .NET 7, actually, you can treat this as a first release, but officially MAUI was launched like maybe half of a year ago or a year ago, but only starting from the .NET 7, it is like ready to be consumed, to be used on the projects. So actually, even Microsoft tells that they mostly concentrated on addressing top issues of the previous release of MAUI. So that means probably such things like performance, bugs, and so on. And one important thing in this release, so they also introduced desktop features. So not sure how they released MAUI without that, but okay. So MAUI became just better. So closer to what we wanted to have it to be. Another interesting product is Orleans, Microsoft Orleans framework. For these who are not familiar, what is that? Orleans is a Microsoft framework for building highly scalable, high-performant applications using actor-based model. So, for example, this is the framework that was used for building the backend for Halo game. Also, it is used in Dynamics 365 and in some other internal Microsoft products. It is not very widely used. It's not very popular because not in every case, and not in each of the application, we really need these high performant capabilities, but the learning curve of this actor-based framework is pretty steep. So it's not so easy to teach your team how to use these actors and how to build the proper architecture for Orleans. But anyway, I think it becomes more and more popular, and also it is widely used inside Microsoft. And Microsoft decided to make it a top-level product. You can understand that just because of its version. So previous version was Orleans 3.0. So now it's Orleans 7.0. So the same number as ASP.NET Core, as Entity Framework Core. So that means probably Microsoft will work on their Orleans on the same way how they work, how they currently work with ASP.NET Core, with Entity Framework. So this is a top-level product nowadays. So they worked a lot on Orleans, and they tried to make it like closer to ASP.NET Core model. So in order to simplify its learning, they also worked a lot on the different improvements, because this is like the product that they use a lot internally, and so they have a very good documentation for Orleans. And yeah, if you have the requirements to build really extremely scalable applications, so probably it's worth to take a look at Orleans and check if it works for you or not. So it wasn't only MAUI and Orleans. There were some conversations about other topics as well, about Windows Forms, WPF. Yeah, of course, this is not very popular things nowadays, but still there are some improvements in these areas. F#7. So I'm not an F# specialist, but it's a new language release. And for example, if we have a look at how features are introduced in C#, we can note interesting things that pretty common, pretty similar functionality initially usually released in F#, and then Microsoft just gets the best from F# and move this to C# as well. So it might be also very interesting for you to have a look at F#7. Also, Microsoft released a new version of machine learning, and also it was official release of Visual Studio for ARM64. So previously we had this in preview, so now it is like official release of Visual Studio for ARM64, which is good. And the last slide, actually all this information was aggregated from the three sources. It's a .NET Conf website. You can go there and check all the agenda, all the topics, find something interesting for you. A lot of information was put on the devblogs microsoft.com website. This is a blogs aggregator, Microsoft devblogs aggregator. And also you can watch these videos, these recordings on Microsoft's official .NET channel. All these videos are there, and you can find something interesting for you and watch. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. We still have some time for your questions.
Yeah, thank you, Alexey, for your presentation. It was really interesting and great. We have a couple of questions here for you. Maybe you are aware about Entity Framework Core number 7. Is it mandatory to have .NET 7 in conjunction?
No, it is not mandatory. You can use Entity Framework 7 with .NET 6 and .NET 7. So it supports .NET 6 and .NET 7. Supports both.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good to know. And the next question is about F#. And the question is, what do you think when F# will become as popular as C#? Is it just possible? What do you think about this functional paradigm? Is it just some maybe challenges, some good algorithms that can be solved with Z# and just some modules maybe can be written? What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think F# is a really nice language, but I don't believe that it will be more popular than C#, just because C# was initially designed to be object-oriented programming language, which was the most popular development paradigm in the world. And so all the students around the world are learning how to do object-oriented programming nowadays, while F# is like a functional language. It is mostly concentrated on handling some data pipes, which is like it's nice from the syntax perspective, but yeah, this is not something that is so easy to learn and so easy to work with. So F# is really nice language, but it will not be probably as popular as C#, because C# you can treat this like as a music genres. Yeah, some music genres are more popular, another more complicated. For example, classics music. It's unlikely that it will be more popular than pop music. So same here.
Maybe it is because we just start learning coding in university or even in our schools, starting from procedural paradigm instead of functional paradigm. That's why just people already think in this way. It's this is how they used to write the code. And once you just try to introduce something new, our brain just blocks these ideas. Do you think there's a reason maybe if we will start learning coding with functional paradigms, the situation can be changed? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely agree. So currently we're in OOP world. Maybe the situation will be changed in the future. Okay.
The next question, do you think we should have a separate session where we can discuss best practices for migrating to new versions of .NET? I know large numbers of projects at EPAM that use older versions of .NET. I would like to understand why this is the case and what challenges may arise.
Yeah, absolutely agree that it would be nice to have such sessions. Yeah, if we have a demand on such topics, we definitely should have a session. Yeah, thank you so much for this idea. Yeah, we will try to find some people with a real experience of making these migrations, maybe from the full framework to .NET to .NET 6 or 7. Because, well, in general, the upgrade from 6 to 7 wouldn't be too painful, yeah, obviously, but from, let's say, from 3.1 to 7 will be much more complicated. So yeah, good idea. Glad to hear that you would like to get some details about that.
Agree, definitely. They've made so much improvements, especially
yeah, you know, Microsoft. Sorry for interrupting. Just wanted to share this, that Microsoft actually had lots of the articles about their experience of migrating from the framework, .NET framework, to .NET 5 to .NET 6, and they usually shared huge improvements in performance, in memory consumption, and so on. Yeah, this absolutely a really interesting topic. Yeah, sorry, Denis, sorry, interrupted you.
No problem. And my question, what do you think about language extension? It seems nowadays it's not an easy job to complete if you want to extend C# with some primitives or some constructions you want. What do you think? Should Microsoft drive this topic just to let the developers to extend the language in more easiest way than they do it right now? Because, for example, if you just take a look into Swift UI, it's really amazing paradigm how to write declarative code behind UI. And if you just take a look what happens after you press compilation button, it absolutely under the hood, it compiles traditional, let's say, traditional piece of code with a lot of objects in it, but in front of your eyes as a source code, you see some kind of elegant and concise way to write the code to declare the controls and other stuff. And I just started to think, hey, it would be really nice if we can bring such approach to C#, but we need to introduce a couple of new paradigms, not paradigms, but language constructions and all of this stuff. But then I understood that it's not an easy one to complete, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, actually, there are several ways how you can have your own syntax of C#. Actually, you can have your own version of Roslyn compiler. It's open sourced. You can grab its source code and make your changes. And you know, even on this .NET Conf, there was a session about how can you introduce a new language feature to your C# compiler. So if you are interested in that, you can take a look. You can also propose the ideas of the C# language features to Microsoft. There are some patterns which you should follow to propose the idea, and they will review if this idea is really good. And I think there is another way what you can do. You can use source generators. Nowadays, this is like the most easiest probably and the most correct approach to enrich your applications with some additional things. But yeah, obviously you will have to stick to C# features to C# language, but you will be able to extend your project with almost whatever you want using source generators.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I see there are a couple more questions. Is it possible to use .NET 7 library in application built with .NET 6? Yes, it is possible, and the example is Entity Framework, Entity Framework Core 7. But not all the libraries will work just perfectly because there might be some missed APIs. For example, this library may be compiled for .NET 7 and it relied on, let's say, this new API related to nanoseconds. And if you are on .NET 6, you don't have nanoseconds in your date times, or let's say tar API is used. Same situation. So I suspect some of the libraries may work, but then you may have some exceptions during the runtime. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's the idea if it generates the same intermediate language, in the end it just maybe can be used. But if you just generate some new instructions for intermediate language, which
it might be the problem, right? Might be the problem. Our project has plans to migrate from .NET 3 to .NET 6. Would be nice to have an experience sharing with this. Yeah, okay, good. We will try to find someone. Okay, so looks like no more questions. Olga, would you like to share something at the end?
No, thank you. I have shared all the necessary information in the chat. So please, guys, if you like this event, if you like the presentation, please rate it on the platform via community. Just press the link in the chat. You can press the button, thank you. And by this action, give a badge to our excellent speaker. I think he really deserves it. So, and also we will really appreciate your feedback if it's possible, because it will take you only several minutes. You can write there everything that you want to share, all your ideas, thoughts, and help us to improve our events. Thank you. And I see that someone has raised a hand. So maybe
okay, let's allow Anton to talk. Hi, Anton.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to ask, like last week, seems like we had a session, the same session, but in Russian. Right?
Yeah.
Could you please help me to find a link to this recording, if we had any recording of the last session?
To the recording. Okay, Olga, do we have?
Yep, I'm here. I can answer this question. In several days, it will appear on our YouTube channel, and we will share the link also in our Telegram chat and on the platform via community. And so I will put this video to our events. So just several days, because we'd like to share all the videos at the same time, English and Russian version. So that's why we will be waiting for this event to happen. So just a moment, and very soon we will be able to share these videos with you.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Right. So, guys, thanks everyone for attending the session. Yeah, I hope that was useful for you. And let's wrap up. I wish you good luck and have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great evening. Bye.